just to prove the request. All right, sorry, Zinura, go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هذا هو الحق الذي يعول عليه. Can you stop moving the text? I'm getting a bit... Okay. وهذا العلم كان علم الشيث عليه السلام، وروحه هو الممدد لكل من يتكلم في مثل هذا من الأرواح ما عدا روح الخاتم، فإنه لا تأتيه المادة إلا من الله، لا من روح من الأرواح، بل من روحه تكون المادة لجميع الأرواح.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. If there's a second reader who wants to read, we'll do one more. We'll get one more reader. Otherwise, we'll just start the text.
Do you want to go to the end of the section, Osiri? Because she stopped in the first sentence.
I want to stop to لجميع الأرواح. That's it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, if there's a second reader, let me know. Otherwise, we'll start.
Yeah, I can read that.
Hi, Sahar, كيفك? Yeah, بسم الله, go ahead. Yes.
من أول كما أن صح؟
أيوة.
بسم الله. كما أن الأعطيات تتميز كل أعطية عن غيرها بشخصيتها، وإن كانت من أصل واحد، فمعلوم أن هذه ما هي هذه الأخرى، وسبب ذلك تميز الأسماء. فما في الحضرة الإلهية لاتساعها شيئا يتكرر أصلا، هذا هو الحق الذي يعول عليه. وهذا العلم كان علم شيث عليه السلام، وروحه هو الممدد لكل من يتكلم في مثل هذا من الأرواح ما عدا روح الخاتم، فإنه لا تأتيه المادة إلا من الله، لا من روح من الأرواح، بل من روحه تكون المادة لجميع الأرواح.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's just leave the screen there. Thanks. Okay, so last time, if my memory serves me correct, we were going into more detail about the gifts that are from the names. And so he's just finishing off that section by saying how, despite the fact that each divine name points to one musamma, each name can be distinguished from another. And that's why each gift that comes from a divine name can be distinguished from one another. And that's due to the vastness of the divine presence. Al-Hadratul Illahiyya. And he says, Itisariha. He says, right? He says, there is no repetition. فما في الحضرة الإلهية لاتساعها شيء يتكرر أصلا. There's nothing that repeats ever. So if this is a thing you know about the Shaykh al-Akbar's doctrine, it is that nothing is ever repeated with Allah. And when we say nothing, that is as extreme as you can get. So there's an Ash'ari doctrine which talks about how the universe cannot remain by itself. It needs the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep it alive and to keep it in existence. If it does not have his support for even 1 millisecond, it just disappears, right? Now, that's with regard to, I think what the Ash'ari say are the accidents, right? There's something called the substance and the accidents. But the Shaykh al-Akbar also says that the universe, the cosmos, is in need of Allah's support for the accidents and the substance. So for everything, basically. It cannot remain by itself, even for the smallest unit of time, whatever you think the smallest unit of time is, nanosecond, whatever smaller than that. So what happens is that Allah creates it, and then it disappears the next second, and then He recreates it. That's the way the cosmos works according to the vision of the Arifin. And so this example has been given by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, also Ali Hussein, about what's called a film strip. If you've ever seen a film strip, exactly, thank you, see Joshua. The ayah for that is كل يوم هو في شأن. And each, so كل يوم, yom in Lughat al-Arabiya can also mean the smallest unit of time, not just an actual yom, like the 24-hour day. Yom can also mean the smallest unit of time. So every single moment, He is the one who is keeping the universe alive and in existence. So there's this example of what's called a film strip, right? You know how, like in a movie, if you want to play a movie, especially on the older reels, you have to have what are called the frames. So you see each frame, if you were to look at the strip, you see the character moving from one frame to the next, right? And they're not actually moving. You're just playing the next frame that comes after that. But what happens is that when you project the film strip onto the screen, it looks like they're moving, but they're not actually moving. It's just the frames that are going, right? Now, in between each frame, there's like a black strip, right? If you look at an actual film strip, there's like a black line, right? That would be the fana of that film until the next frame comes, because the same frame cannot remain. You have to move on to the next frame. The universe works in the same way. Now, for example, if I'm holding this mobile, it was there 1 second ago, then it disappeared the next second, and now it's back, but it's happening so quickly, with such speed, with such rapidity, you don't notice it. You don't notice it, but it's actually happening. Now, the other thing to add to that is that not only does Allah have to recreate the universe at each tiniest unit of time, nanosecond, whatever it is, He makes it new. So when I'm holding, again, this mobile, not only did He remake it the next second, so now this is a mobile He remade, a pencil, table, anything. It's new. It's a new mobile. It's a new pencil. It's a new table, but you don't perceive it. It's not the same one. Same with you and me. It's new. And this is due to His itisa'a, due to Him being wasi'a. And exactly like Irvina said, this is from the philosophy of Heraclitus. And Heraclitus is a mystic himself. You never step into the same river twice, because the river's always moving. You never step into the same river twice. You think you're in the same place, but you're not. It's actually new. It's actually new. And then, so this is why they say in Jannah, you see that. So what happens is, especially in Jannah, when you take a bite from an apple, each new bite, I guess each extra bite that you take, it has a new flavor. It's not the same flavor. And you see that. You actually see that happening. The church fathers have a word for it. I'm going to try and remember it, but it's called, I think, epectasis or something like that. It's called a new beginning. You're moving from one new beginning to another new beginning. That's why in Jannah you can't ever get bored. In Jannah, it's impossible to get bored, right? Because you're only moving from new beginnings to new beginnings. So that's why it says in the Quran at the end of Surah Al-Kahf, لا يبغون عنها حولا. What does that mean? لا يبغون, the people in Jannah will not search, they will not try to move away from Jannah, right? Because you can't ever get bored. If you guys if you guys have ever heard of a TV show, it's called The Good Place. Let me know if you have heard of this TV show or not.
Yes, I did. I did watch some of it, most of it actually.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
interesting.
Do you remember what happens at the end? In the end, I think there's a character called Chibi. Chibi, right?
Yeah.
And he says, listen, I can only go to Paris so many times before I get bored. And I've done everything there is to do. Yeah, so they find out they're in hell. That's like in the first season. But I want to know what's happening at the end of the series, right? So at the end of the series, they actually get to the good place. The good place. And then GB does everything he wants to do. And he says, I've done everything I wanted to do, but I can't keep doing it because now it's gotten boring. Now it's gotten boring. There's only so many times I can visit Paris before I'm done, right? And so he says, I just want to disappear. He's looking for a kind of fana. He wants so they make this door, and if you step through the door, your body dissolves and you kind of like merge into the cosmic and into the cosmic like network, if you like. You merge in, you dissolve into the cosmos, right? Um, it's kind of like becoming part of it because he wants to transcend his current bodily form. He wants to move on to something higher. Yeah. So we say about the Quran, because there's a verse in the Quran that says that if someone can find me the verse, لا فرط من الكتاب شيء, something like that, right? There is nothing that we have left out of this book. So it means the Quran has taken this scenario from the good place into account. And it has said what you're talking about in the good place, that's not Jannah. Because you got bored and you wanted to leave. But Allah said, لا يبغون عنها حولا, because that's not the true Jannah. The true Jannah is when you will not want to leave it because you will never get bored because there's no repetition. There's no repetition in Jannah. Zero. Everything you do is new. Every single thing. Because of the secret that's called لإتساعها أو لإتساع Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he's called al-Wasi', due to his divine name being al-Wasi'. Wasi', the name implies that Allah never repeats anything. That's why he's called Wasi'. If he has to repeat something, he's not Wasi'. Then the Shaykh al-Akbar says, هذا هو الحق الذي يعول عليه. There's a beautiful book he's written. It's Risala. It's called The Things That You Don't Depend Upon. The things الذي لا تعول عليه. And then he lists all the things that you shouldn't depend on. And so this is from the spirit and ruhaniya of Sayyidina Shis alayhi salam, to do with the knowledge of the gifts, whether it's the gifts of the divine essence or the gifts of the divine names. It all comes from his ruh. So the Shaykh al-Akbar says, any wali who wants knowledge of these gifts, he's basically taking them from the ruh of Sayyidina Shis alayhi salam. And this also leads us into another interesting question about how we obtain knowledge of certain realities from the ghaib. You take it from the ruh of a hakim, you take it from the ruh of a wali, you take it from the ruh of a nabi, right? And that ruh will be your support. You will get your madad, you will get your support and madad from that ruh. And so that means we are constantly in communication with these arwah, especially if you want to be in communication with them. So that's a whole other subject, right? But then he says, there's only one person who does not take this knowledge from the ruh of Sayyidina Shita alayhi salam. Who is this? This is the Khatam al-Awliya, Khatam al-Muhammadiyya, because his knowledge comes straight from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And then I think he will also argue that it's actually Shith who takes his knowledge from the Khatam al-Muhammadiyya, insofar as we're talking about wilaya, not insofar as we're talking about nubuwa, from the Bayt Mal of wilaya. And so now he's going to say something really beautiful. Yeah, so I think we can move on. If someone also wants to, by the way, are there any questions before I move on?
I just want to say something. I think the other day I was listening to something about Ibn Arabi with Munira, and
Yeah.
you were saying you don't move, you move to the next, but they were saying there's no movement actually, since it's
Precisely. Precisely.
Yeah.
So in reality, there is no movement. In reality, there is no movement, even though it sounds strange for us to hear, but yes, that's like the actual reality of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sayyid Bukhari, go ahead. Joshua, can you make me co-host? Yeah, go ahead, Sayyid Bukhari.
Okay, thank you very much for this beautiful explication. And I was just wondering about a couple of things that you initiated the discussion. The first thing was that, for example,
Yes.
Getting the fairs from the ruh of Prophet Shis, and particularly the ilm that was talked about. Okay, actually, I just want to situate myself because the earlier sessions I was unable to take, and I just joined it. And just to clarify this thing, does Sheikh Ibn Arabi presuppose that the alam al-ruh, and in that alam al-ruh, we get these fairs from these prophets, and particularly the prophet Shis? Is that what he's presupposing? And for example, how would we understand that in this world? This understanding, because I was somehow I was lost in this debate, that how does he understand that. And the second question was that you also linked that debate of the permanence and the change of Parmenides and Heraclitus debate, and then that was actually becomes more mature in the debates between Plato and Aristotle. Can you draw some sort of comparison, that how did Plato or Aristotle understood this debate, and how Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn Arabi looks at that, the permanence and the change, and that was linked basically with the Jannah. But how about this world that in which we are living? Because a lot of critics, they come up with this idea that Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, this world seems to be not as full reality or something like that. I don't remember that perfectly, but this is what I had learned. So sorry for these ambiguous, but I think that would really help me. Answers would really help me to situate myself into the text. But thank you very much for this beautiful text and readings.
No, thank you very much for your questions. For Sheikh Al-Akbar, reality is one. Al-Haqiqa hiya wahida. So there's no point in saying one version, not version, but one dimension of reality, or one hadra, like you've got hadrat al-alam al-arwah and hadrat ilm Allah, for example, and hadrat al-khayal, right? There's no point in saying one is necessarily more real than the other, because all of them manifest the presence of Allah to some extent. You do talk about the relativity of one which is more real than the other for a certain purpose. Like, for example, for the purposes of the akhirah, for the purposes of doing good works, you say that the alam al-arwah is more real. What's in the akhirah is more real than what's here. So make sure you do good works, right? I don't know what's the debate between Plato and Aristotle. They don't really get into Heraclitus's position. Maybe they do. I'm not an expert on philosophy. See, Joshua can weigh in on if I'm mistaken, right? Because Heraclitus is describing a mystical idea, to the best of my knowledge, and also we don't know a whole lot about Heraclitus because we only have fragments of his writings. Aristotle's more down to earth, right? And then the first part of your question, if I remember correctly, is to do with where does the support come from? It comes from alam al-arwah. Was that your question for the first part?
Question was like, for example, as a human being, for example, if I want to get this knowledge, the fairs, so how can I be able to get that? Because the talk is here that it is coming from the ruh of the Prophet Shis. So how would I actually get that fast?
This is the work of the awliya. This is what they do. And to the best of my knowledge, what they do is that either a wali's ruh will actually ascend to alam al-khayal or alam al-arwah, and they'll talk to this other ruh, who's like Sayyidina Shit alayhi salam. Sometimes their ruh, their arwah, will come down to this world and embody itself. It can happen in any way. So those are two ways. A third way is it can happen in alam al-khayal through dreams, right? A fourth way is it can happen through them giving you knowledge, which is a kind of like an inspiration, ilham, but it's from them, it's not from you, and you're not aware of it. That can also happen. So for example, like Empedocles is someone who I would assume has this knowledge because he talks about how you should treat everything that comes to you as a gift. So this knowledge that Empedocles has, it's from the ruh of Sayyidina Shit alayhi salam, whether he knows it or not. He could be describing this knowledge without being aware of that. Or he could be aware of it, right?
For the sake of just continuity, I think maybe we should keep on with the text and then save any further questions to the
Okay.
last 30.
Can the people who've raised their hands just write down the questions in the chat?
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to the end. Okay. So can I have one reader, please?
Yeah, I can read.
Who is that?
Yeah. Huda?
Bismillah. Yeah, Dr. Huda, please go ahead.
Shall I start from وإن كان لا يعقل?
Yes. And then you can finish up to Siru Abihi. Yes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن كان لا يعقل ذلك من نفسه في زمان تركيب جسده العنصري فهو من حيث حقيقته ورتبته عالم بذلك كله بعينه من حيث ما هو جاهل به من جهة تركيبه العنصري فهو العالم الجاهل فيقبل الإتصاف بالأضداد
yes بالأضداد yes
الضاد كما قابل الأصل الإتصاف بذلك كالجليل والجميل وكالظاهر والباطن والأول والآخر وهو عينه ليس غير يعلم لا يعلم فيعلم لا يعلم ويدري ولا يدري ويشهد ولا يشهد وبهذا العلم سمي شيت لأن معناه هبة الله فبيده مفتاح العطايا على اختلاف أصنافها ونسبها فإن الله وهبه لآدم أول ما وهبه وما وهبه إلا منه لأن الولد سر أبيه. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's great. So then let me carry on, inshallah. And so he says something like extraordinary. So he says like this could be the reality, right? When we're talking about, so now he's talking about the Khatam al-Awliya, right? He might not even himself be aware of the fact that he's deriving his knowledge straight from God and not from the ruh of Sayyidina Shit alayhi salam when he is in his bodily existence or configuration. And so from that perspective, he's someone who's knowing and unknowing. Now, there's two things. It sounds like he's describing an oxymoron, but it's actually more of a paradox. And so it is a paradox because when you combine opposites, you become divine. You are Ilahi and you are Lordly, you are Rabbani. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is known through the combination of the opposites. Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz, the great wali, has said that I have come to know Allah through the coming together of the opposites, right? And then he recited the verse, فَهُوَ الْأَوْلِ الْآخِرِ وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنِ. So this is actually perfection. This is the perfection of the human configuration. If someone tried to strive to be all-knowing, besides the fact that it's impossible, he would actually have not achieved his purpose, his what his destiny, if you like, if what he was meant to be doing. But if he is described as being knowing and unknowing at the same time, if he's alim and jahil, if he's seeing and not seeing, perceiving and not perceiving, that is his perfection. Because one of the principles that Sheikh Al-Akbar teaches is that the perfection of the cosmos lies in its imperfection. That is what it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be imperfect for many reasons, but that's a whole other subject. So by having this combination, he is doing what he's supposed to be doing, and there is no state that's higher than this state. It's actually a perfect imitation of Rasulullah, because you will find this all the time in the hadith and in the seerah. He'll be at times knowing and at times not knowing, at times seeing and at times not seeing, at times perceiving, at times not perceiving. But he always has supports of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for when it is needed, and Allah or Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam will inform him of what he needs to know. But he combines both, right? So that's why the mushrikun would sometimes criticize Rasulullah, and someone might say he doesn't even know where his camel is, and then he says, how should I know? She went off, and then Allah tells him where the camel is. So they combine both of them. Or he does the what's called the Isra before the Mi'raj, and he travels to Al-Quds, and then I think it was Abu Jahl or one of the mushrikun challenged him and said, if you went to Al-Quds, tell us what the caravan looked like. But Rasulullah was on the Buraq, so he didn't see the caravan. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he showed him what the caravan looked like, and then he began describing it to the mushrikun and Abu Jahl as a confirmation that he truly, definitely went to Al-Quds in that night and did the Mi'raj after that. So that is the perfect human state, being knowing and unknowing, combining opposites. If someone does that, he truly is divine. He's actually lordly. So one of the meanings of the name Shith alayhi salam, according to Hebrew, is that the name means gift of God, and I have gone through the meaning of this name in my own first lesson to this fuss. So if you want to know more about that, check out that session we did, which is my first session on this fuss, where I talk more about the meaning of his name. And so there's also a correspondence between Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam and Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, between Seth and Jesus, because Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam corresponds to the opening of a cycle of wilaya, and then Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, he closes off that cycle. He closes off one level of that cycle. Then there's a third khatam, who is the khatam al-awlad, the seal of children, and he closes off the whole cycle, which we'll come to at the end of this chapter. Yes. Can we have one more reader, please, and we will carry on. But CD Joshua, can you go up just one little bit? Yeah. So just where it says وما وهبه إلا منه لأن الولد سر أبيه, just right there. Thank you. Yes, because that's going to connect to the next part. Zanira, yes, go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما وهبه إلا منه لأن الولد سر أبيه فمنه خرج وإليه عاد فما أتاه غريب لمن عقل عن الله وكل عطاء في الكون على هذا المجرى فما في أحد من الله شيء وما في أحد من سوى نفسه شيء وإن تنوعت عليه الصور وما كل أحد يعرف هذا وأن الأمر على ذلك إلا أحد من أهل الله فإذا رأيت من يعرف ذلك فاعتمد عليه فذلك هو عين صفاء خلاصة خاصة الخاصة من عموم أهل الله تعالى فأي كشف شاهد صورة تلقي إليه ما لم يكن عنده من المعارف وتمنحه ما لم يكن قبل ذلك في يده، فتلك الصورة عينه لا غيره. فمن شجرة نفسه جنى ثمر علمه كالصورة الظاهرة منه، في مقابلة الجسم الصقيل ليس غيره، إلا أن المحل أو الحضرة التي رأى فيها صورة نفسه تلقي إليه تنقلب من وجه بحقيقة تلك الحضرة، كما يظهر الكبير في المرآة الصغيرة صغيرا، أو المستطيلة مستطيلا، والمتحركة متحركا. وقد تعطيه انتكاس صورته من حضرة خاصة، وقد تعطيه عين ما يظهر منها، فتقابل اليمين منها اليمين من الرأي، وقد يقابل اليمين اليسار، وهو الغالب في المرايا بمنزلة العادة في العموم. وبخرق العادة
Okay. Can we just read that last sentence and we'll stop there.
وبخرق العادة يقابل اليمين ويظهر الانتكاس.
Yeah, al-intikas, thank you so much. See, Joshua, can we go up just a little bit to where we were? Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here. Like, he can just pack a whole topic into one sentence, and that's the Shaykh al-Akbar for you. So, why does he talk about this? Because this is extraordinary. وَمَا وَهَبُهُ إِلَّا مِنْهُ لِأَنَّ الْوَلَدْ سِرَ بِهِ. Right? Sorry, Joshua, can you just go up just a little bit more, please? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there's two ways to read that sentence, right? وَمَا وَهَبُهُ إِلَّا مِنْهُ. So the gift comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also that's not what he's saying though. By the time you start reading the paragraphs after that, he's saying that he is his own gift to himself, right? And so he's returning back to the theme that the whole existence is a series of mirrors, right? If you've not gone through Fas Adam, you need to go back and go through it, because that is the Fas that talks about how existence is a series of mirrors, right? And that's how we obtain our existence. We are reflections of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We reflect his attributes, and we see him in our mirror, and he sees us through these mirrors. And so one reflects the other. So in a very matrix-like description, it's as if he is saying that not just for Sayyidina Shita alayhi salam, but for any person, all you see is yourself. That's all you see. And all the other objects of multiple diversity and variation, those are just reflections of your own self. And the way you have a mirror that changes shape and size, that is exactly what causes an object to be different. So what I understood is that when he says فَمِنْهُ خَرَجَ وَإِلَيْهِ عَادٍ, right? Yes, you could read that as saying from Allah he came and to Allah he returned. That's one level. But another way of saying it is that he came from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, because Adam alayhi salam gave birth to him and with his wife Hawa, and to him he returns as well, in the sense that he sees him in the akhirah. فما أتاه غريب لمن عقل عن الله وكل عطاء في الكون على هذا المجرى. And this kind of gift, every gift in existence, this is how it happens. It comes from God and it returns to God. And then the one who realizes this, he's from the special elite of Allah's people. فإذا رأيت من يعرف ذلك فاعتمد عليه. So you should depend on him because he belongs to this elite. فأي صاحب كشف شاهد صورة تلقي إليه ما لم يكن عنده من المعارف وتمنحه ما لم يكن قبل ذلك في يده. فتلك الصورة صورة عينه لا غيره. Whatever he is seeing by way of kashaf, all he is seeing is a reflection of himself. Thus he takes that knowledge from the shajara, from the tree of his own self, right? Just as a reflection in a mirror that's been polished is showing nothing but the observer to himself. And so he is learning about himself. And so with each action you take in life and each gift you are receiving, you are only seeing yourself, you are only learning about yourself. This is to such the extent that even if you were to see Allah, you're only seeing yourself in his form. Even if you see Allah, you're seeing himself in your form, because you are like a mirror. And so the mirror kind of like takes something and brings it down to its own reality. So he says, if there's an object that's large, but your mirror is small, you will see it small. And if your mirror is twisted or unclean, and the other object is clean and harmonious, you will see it as unclean and unharmonious, right? So this is a huge idea he's talking about. And it's not easy. And then he starts talking about the different hadras or hadarat, the different divine presences that give to each person something. And so when you perceive an object, you see it in the mirror of that hadra, right? That pertains to that hadra. Yes, Irvina, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
One of the last lines you mentioned, I encountered in the awrad or the litanies of the Ibn Arabi that Dr. Ali has translated, and
Yes.
it says like this. I will just read it. My annihilation is in you, subsistence through you, and you are whom I witness. But then on the other paragraph, it says, you are as you have witnessed and commanded. Thus, my witnessing is the essence of my own existence. I have not witnessed other than myself in my annihilation and subsistence. The illusion is towards me, the ruling for and upon me, and the relationship is mine. All of this is my rank and affair, in appearance, hiding and the permeation of the preserved secret. And I just took a note here and I said, is this a paradox? Because just before it said, you are whom I witness. And then I witness only myself in a way.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're only seeing yourself, but in God's mirror or someone else's mirror. That's exactly it. Yeah. MashaAllah. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. MashaAllah.
Sorry, I need something not clear here. You said
Sure.
you're seeing yourself in God's mirror.
Yes.
So then you'll see yourself in perfection, right? If it's God's mirror.
It depends on what we're talking about. Like, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. It could actually be imperfect, because if you have imperfections, those become projected onto God, right? And then you're bringing God down onto your own level. So not necessarily, but it could be. But you actually are seeing God, but just a distorted image. of God. That's totally possible.
No, but my question is, it's not your mirror. If it's your mirror, then it could be tarnished or twisted. But if
Yes.
it's God's mirror, then it's perfect.
If it's God's mirror, then it's perfect, yes.
So
Yes.
if you see yourself in God's mirror, then you see perfection. This is it. This is what he's saying.
If you see yourself in God's mirror, then you are seeing. Yeah, but perfection for what? That doesn't make you perfect as a human being. You are seeing yourself as your ayn thabita, your immutable entity. You are seeing yourself as God knows you, perfect for your purpose, perfect for what you should be. Yes, this is correct. Exactly.
Yeah, fine. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Then yeah, then we can carry on, inshallah. But I mean, I haven't dealt with everything that came beforehand though. But I think it would take like a really long time to get into it. So just let me look at it one more time. I feel like I know what he's saying here, but I want to think about it more, because what happens is that in a mirror, if you raise your right hand, the image in the mirror, what hand does he raise?
The left hand. The left.
The opposite.
Opposite, yeah.
The opposite.
The opposite.
That is how a mirror image should be.
Okay.
But he's saying that a miracle can happen. That's called بخرق العادة. خرق العادة is a miracle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can cause something to happen so that if you raise your right hand in the mirror, the image in the mirror raises its right hand, which is not the norm.
Yeah.
It's even what I would consider impossible.
Yes.
But the Shaykh al-Akbar is saying that can happen. He's saying that could happen. But I'm trying to figure out why is he saying that though. So I want to think more about that and come back to this one paragraph. Maybe like I'll send a voice note about it in the chat room. Because he's saying he's talking about it for a certain reason. Yeah, I may want to like think about this a bit more. Okay, then can we go on, please, until I come back to that?
I'll just make a note on that. I mean, what he's talking about hadra.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
he's saying that there are different states or different realms, different presences. And so depending upon the state or the hadra one is in, the mirrors may appear in different formations. And so the reflection that one perceives on the mirror in that particular hal or hadra is going to be, it's going to conform to that state as well. So even, say, for example, you think you have the same type of mirror in 3 different states, the nature of the reflection in the mirror is going to shift based upon the environment. So again, it's like a continuation of this notion of there's no repetition in existence. It's like
Yes.
even when you have, even if you think you have the same mirror or you have the same state, right? Like either the mirror is changing or the state is changing in which you're perceiving, through the medium through which you're perceiving the mirror itself is that hal or that hadra, and that can constantly be in a state of shift, I think. So what he's saying is that depending upon, he says, just as a large mirror figure appears small in a tiny mirror, or an elongated figure appears stretched in a narrow one, or a moving person appears to move in a mobile reflection, so too does the unveiling conform to the nature of the realm in which it appears. So I think maybe what he's saying is بخرق العادة, like he's talking about the capacity for, like, depending upon the state, these sorts of abnormalities can arise or can occur because of it's a different category of things he's talking about when he's talking about states, I think. I mean, I don't know, this is just my reflection on what he's saying.
Aisha, go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but in some other groups, with Shuaib, Eric Winkle, he talks about the concept of Khilafah, and where in that case, then Allah is acting from behind. And so if the mirror is from behind, then it could well be that when you raise your right hand, it's the right hand that's raised, because when you're the true Khilafah, then Allah is behind you and you are acting from the front with Allah behind you. I don't know if that might be linked to it somehow.
It could be. It could be. I mean, this is something that really requires like a lot of thought. But by the way, I love that you mentioned the Khilafah, Jazakallah khairan, because that's very relevant to what we were talking about before. Because the Khilafah is also someone who combines opposites, right? He is knowing and unknowing. He moves and doesn't move. He sees and doesn't see. He perceives and doesn't perceive. Because the Khalifatullah ala ard, he is someone who is ala kulli yawm wa kulli yawmin huwa fi sha'an. He is someone who moves from one state to another state. He's not fixed in a state. So you're totally right. The Khilafah is definitely connected to this somehow. And I suppose when it says وَبِخَرَقَ الْعَادَةِ, who gets the kharaq al-'ada? That's the awliya. So that could be the Khalifa. That's a really interesting interpretation. Thank you for giving it. Yes, that's totally possible. Zanira.
I was just reminded of what we studied in like first Adam. I believe that like one interpretation is that, not interpretation, I think it's the Shaykh al-Akbar's position that the reason why we're mirrors is because like Allah's, including the name al-Zahir wal-Batin, Allah's essence never changes, and but his manifestations change, while our essence are like we keep changing like externally less, and our internal state changes more.
Yes. Yes.
So we're a reflection in terms of, an inverted, mirror image in terms of that. And I also remember Dr. Ali said that when Allah, I don't know if he said tajalli or like just manifestation. I don't want to say tajalli because that's something different. But he said when Allah's jalal manifests, on Allah's end, let's say, it manifests as jalal, but we receive it as jamal. And when his jamal manifests, we receive it as jalal. And I mean, it didn't make any sense to me then. It doesn't make sense to me now. But I was just reminded of that. I had a question. When it says, sorry, Josh, can you? Yeah. خرق العادة. I'm wondering, you said by some miracle, right? But the way that the translation is, and I don't know what the original connotation of the word kharq is, but the way that the translation is, I think it says distortion, right? The natural order is disrupted. And so disruption, at least in English, is not a positive connotation. So I'm wondering, but you said miracle, which has a very positive connotation. I'm wondering, what is the connotation of kharq? And specifically kharq al-'ada. Yeah, kharq al-'ada. Like, what's the connotation? Yeah, that's what it says.
Kharq al-'adat is to disrupt the norm. It's to disrupt the norms. So it's not normal for a wali to kind of like make a movement with his hand in the air and suddenly gold appears in his hand. It's not normal for him to like just snap his fingers and then wheat grows from the ground. It's breaking the habit, breaking the norm. Like those aren't norms that happen. Kharaq is to break. Ada is the norm and custom. It's breaking the norms and customs of nature.
It's like a violation, ripping, perforating, breaking, yeah.
But
Yes.
I'm wondering, like, why is that? Like, how do we know that that's, I don't know, like, I'm not questioning your interpretation, but I'm wondering just linguistically, right? Because in terms of mirrors, he's talking all this time about mirrors. And the whole point of a good mirror, I would assume, is to have an inverted mirror, like, image, right? But then why is the kharq al-'ada where it's saying, not what the examples that you gave. For me, that example, what you gave, for me, that's a manifestation of al-mubdi al-mu'id, and it reminds me of like al-Ghazali talking about just the same thing, like, like occasionalism, I think it's called, and like just that, okay, God can create. It's not actually kharq al-'ada, that I would say. the examples that you gave, because like you said, everything is being, I mean, like the Sheikh also believes, everything is being annihilated and recreated from scratch every moment. So then, let's say, he raised his hand, there was no wheat there. And so for God to create that place without wheat or with wheat is equally easy. It is equally normal because God is the one annihilating it and recreating it. So for me, that's not a kharq al-ada, and I think that fits in with his. And I think that's just like Ghazali's position in general. Like if something is white, and then actually this is from the Sheikh, I read it a while ago. Like if something is white and it continues to be white, and then if God, that's just because God recreated it completely as white. But if it were white now and it's recreated as black, that's actually not a miracle. That is ada, like that is normal. God just recreated it as black. We perceive it as a miracle because we don't understand that it's a completely new frame. But even the white one continuing to be white is also a new frame. So wheat not growing is also a new frame. But I'm just wondering, like, why is the mirror, like the mirror should reflect an inverted image, right? So like, why is that a good thing if it says that the mirror reflects right for right?
He's not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. He's just saying it's a deviation from the perceived natural order of things. Sorry,
Right,
go ahead.
that's what I understood as well. But I feel like the Dr. Faris, you said it's a miracle. That's why I'm wondering, like, do we know that he's saying it's a positive thing? That's what I'm asking.
A miracle doesn't always be positive.
Zanira, just to add to what you're saying, by the way, Zanira, just to add to it. The Sheikh Al-Akbar says the same thing. So if like someone starts hearing the rocks doing tasbihat, he says a miracle has happened. The rocks are now doing tasbihat. So he says there's no miracle in the rocks doing tasbihat. They're always doing tasbihat. The miracle is that Allah has lifted the veil from your ears. Just to add to what you're saying, this is a good point. And that's why this line I find very interesting and it confuses me. So I'm going to go to the commentaries of the Fusus commentators and see what they say. Because I want to know why is he saying that. Because I'm trying to figure out what is the exact point of that. Yeah, but just like see Joshua said, there doesn't have to be a positive or negative connotation in this context. But kharq al-adat in the vocabulary of Sheikh Akbar, it means miracles, the breaking of the norms. Sahar, go ahead.
I want to share something because when I went to Rumi shrine in Konya, so everything is a mirror. Like, you see who, like it has two sides. Asma Allah al-Husna, it's all like a mirror. And also when I went, very interesting, when I went to Dandara temple in Egypt, Hathor temple, everything was a mirror as well, which was very, very interesting. Maybe I can share the pictures of that. And then I had a reflection actually in that temple, in this particular temple, because it's all the images is like a mirror, like half is like mirror. So something from the ancient as well, they were telling us something about the mirror, like having this mirror image. So I got something like at that time, it was an experience that I felt like whatever is not I need, is like I felt like the need to reflect God's beauty that's inside me on earth, something like that. So whatever is God put inside of me, if it's like maybe a beauty, maybe patience, maybe whatever from God's quality, it's needed to be reflected on earth. So that was the meaning of the mirror for me. Like the quality of God inside of me that he gave me to reflect that on earth, and that was the meaning of mirroring for me. I don't know if it does make sense.
No, it makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
I have no idea.
No, it's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Sahar. It's actually very beautiful.
Thank you.
He continues.
Yeah, we can continue, but I'm just trying to digest what was said here because I'm also trying to understand it as well. Because it's like what Sahara is saying is like if you perceive like it's like a spiritual meaning, its reflection is how you apply it on this earth. For example, because you can talk about the earth as being the world of bodies, which is the world of multiplicity, and the alam al-arwah, the world of the spirits, is the world of the spirits and unity, not multiplicity. It's the world of meaning, whereas the world of bodies is the world of form. And so I think they are opposite to one another in the same way that the right hand is opposite to the left hand. And so when you perceive a spiritual meaning, its reflection is how you, it's correct reflection. The correct reflection is how you apply it on earth that embodies the spiritual meaning. So I think that's a really beautiful reflection. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to think about this line more, but like Joshua said, we'll carry on and then like I'll make a voice note about it, inshallah.
Well, I mean, this is probably a good time for us just to transition out of the text and
Okay.
questions. But I just wanted to note that in the next line, he's kind of doing his own spin-off of فَمَنْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ فَقَدْ عَرَفَ رَبُّهُ. It says
Yes.
فَمَنْ عَرَفَ استعداده عَرَفَ قبوله.
Yes.
And so he's saying whoever knows their readiness knows their capacity for receiving. So it sort of is related to what Sahar just shared, right? So this notion of isti'adad and qabul is very interesting in terms of how we relate to what we feel like the divine is is working within us or channeling through us or something. There is this interplay of readiness and receptivity, isti'adad. So he's going to go into that a bit in the next section here.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Steve. So we can
I say something?
say that for next time, inshallah. Yes, go ahead. And then I'll
Yes.
answer your question, Sana. Go ahead.
It's that sounds like relating to علم المراقبة أو الملاحظة and observing oneself in Sufi in general and observing and you obviously the mirrors is like it draws the observation. So from the observation of yourself, you can see if someone you're attracting the mirror that shows your quality are the highest quality. So you really observe it well, or you see your lowest quality. So you attract as well a mirror in your life to observe the lowest quality to eradicate it or get rid of it.
Yes.
So and clearing, there was
Yes.
a saying, I think in clarity of the mirror of the heart, as the heart has a special mirror, and the more it's clearer, the more you're observing and you can see everything around you and observe, of course, the divine better ways.
Absolutely. And can I just say, this will become much clearer in Fas Nur, because in Fas Nur, there's gonna be a lot of mirroring, but he won't use the word mirrors, but you're gonna see a lot of it. But thank you so much for sharing that, Iman. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You. Thanks.
MashaAllah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's deal with some questions then. Sanat, what was your question? Let me just open the chat. Can you please repeat the last point you made? Yeah, but what last point did I make? So I think it's about heaven and earth, right? So it was just building on what Sahara said, how like if you perceive a spiritual meaning in right, which belongs to the spiritual world, then its reflection is on earth. Its reflection is how you apply it in a way that is appropriate on earth. Because then this would take us into the important ancient saying, as above, so below. As above, so below. What is in the celestial supra-bodily realm and presence beyond this world is reflected in this world, because the whole of wujud is just one. There's no separate presences in the sense that they aren't related to each other. They're all related. They even interpenetrate. They even interpenetrate one another. So each one is a reflection of the other. So the point I was just making is that, like, so you see this a lot with imagination. Imagination is a really good example. But like, if you perceive like noble and pure spiritual meanings in heaven, their application on this earth is like, for example, embodying the makarim al-akhlaq, the good character traits, right? Which are inspired by what you perceived in the heavens or in the celestial realm or the world of spirits, for example, because each one reflects the other, right? This is so much the case that they're all connected. So when you do a good work, it ascends into the world of imagination, which gives it a form. It gives it an actual form, this thing that you did, like maybe this beautiful deed you did in the imaginal world is shown as a flower or a tree that produces fruit. And then it continues to rise until it goes to the world of meaning when it reaches the angels, for example, and it has no form. And the opposite, what's in the world of meanings can descend into the world of imagination and then into this world as well. So, like, for example, I would have mentioned this before. Sufi path of knowledge, this is when I said it. When Rasulullah he had a dream of himself drinking milk, and then it was overflowing his fingertips, and he gave some of it to Sayyidina Umar. He then woke up, and then he interpreted the milk as knowledge. So knowledge belongs to the world of the spirits, because knowledge is a spiritual thing. And it belongs to the world of meanings, because knowledge is meaning. So then meaning descends into the imaginal world, which is the world of dreams too, not just dreams, it's also other things, but dreams is one of them. Then it gives this knowledge a form. What is the surah of ilm? It's milk. It's a laban or halib or laban. And then, so when you're drinking this laban, he's actually drinking knowledge, right? And this is connected to the physical world so much that there was a mutakallam. He's not that spiritual. There's a mutakallam, but actually maybe he's spiritual. I don't know him that well. I shouldn't say what I don't know. But he had a dream that he was drinking milk. So he had a thought. Was I drinking milk or was I drinking knowledge? So what did he do? When he woke up, he stuck his fingers down his throat. He wanted to see what it was. He actually threw up milk because he drank milk in the imaginal world in his dream. In physical reality, he woke up, he tried to vomit out the milk. He actually vomited out milk. It was actual milk. So then what does Sheikh al-Akbar say? Milk is knowledge, right? He just
he lost the knowledge.
He lost as much knowledge as the milk he expelled from his body. Ajib, right? Because each one's a reflection of the other, and they interconnect and they interpenetrate. Is there another question? Yes, Irvina.
For some reason, I was thinking about the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam.
Yes.
Like it has a meaning in a way. And in this physical world, it has a form. But what kind of meaning does it have? Or are these kinds of, like the shirt, the stick of Musa alayhi salam, and so on and so forth, similar things, as you explained a bit?
You're absolutely correct. I would have to think about it. In a dream, a qamis is iman. A qamis in a dream is iman. And
What
so it might be like a shirt. A shirt means faith in a dream. So maybe the shirt of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam corresponds to the power of faith, right? So Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he smells it and he knows it's his son. But those are good questions. And then it actually has multiple meanings because it probably corresponds to what Plato calls the forms, the Platonic forms, which have more than one meaning and are very tremendous realities. So the stick of Musa alayhi salam, he will talk about it in Fas Musa, and he'll tell you what it means, right? But he talks about it through language, and he tells you like what is asa connected to in language, which is ma'asi, disobedience, and he will tell you why that is, and it's connected to Fir'aun as well. Really fascinating. Yeah, but like maybe I can talk about that another time.
Thank you so much.
How do meaning descend from the alam al-arwah? The meaning descends from alam al-arwah. I don't know how it does. It just does descend. But what it does is it passes through the hadrat al-khayal. Because what you have are the maratib al-wujud, the orders of existence. So there's more than one level. Each level is a hadra, a presence, and it's ordered. So the highest level is like the world of Allah's knowledge. Below that is the hadra, the presence of the spirits and angels and intellects. In the middle, in between them, is the alam al-khayal. So it's in the middle of them. And below alam al-khayal is the world of bodies. So the meanings, the arwah, descend, they pass through alam al-khayal, which gives spirits and spiritual meanings embodied form. That's how it descends. And then from alam al-khayal, it passes on to this world. Where do we get the meanings of these symbols and dreams? Is there a specific book? There's more than one book. The problem with that is that a book cannot tell you what your dreams mean, but you're obviously, you can always have a go and a stab at it. Like Ibn Sirin's Book of Dreams is the most obvious one, right? But you and I, Yumna, can have the same dream and they have two different meanings just because you and I are two different people. Because this is an actual ilm, it's a science that's known by dream interpreters. It's actually a Yusufi science, belongs to the inheritance of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. So some people are experts at dream interpretation, right?
My question is not just about dream interpretation. It's mainly how do we know what the symbols and the stories mean? Like, is there a good reference to, like you were saying now, the qamis means al-faith. So how do I, because sometimes when you're even reading the stories in the Quran, each person has a different interpretation, but at least if the symbols, there's a clarity about what could be the meanings of these symbols within the story, then the waqa' on the nafs for each person would be different, but at least it's not something that's very mechanical and mental. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. Like you want to know what the symbols mean.
Yeah, if there is like a good interpretation that gives you different explanations of symbols that could be in each story. This way you will understand the spiritual impact of the story, not just the literal explanation of, let's say, Sayyidina Yusuf or any of the stories of the Anbiya in the Quran.
Yeah, totally. Those tend to be like Sufi tafsir. I'm just trying to think because like it's not in one book.
Yeah.
It's in different books. It's in different books. So I'd have to think about that a little more. The ones who are excellent at what you're talking about, they are the Persian Sufis. more than
Okay.
more than the Arab ones. The Persian Sufis do what you are talking about. So, for example, Maulana Rumi is a genius at it. He's a genius at this kind of thing you're talking about. Then there is the book that Sheikh translated, the Divine Names. Well, who's the? It's I think it's who's the author? If it's not Hafiz, it's someone else. But it's another Persian Sufi, and it's on the divine names he writes. He's a predecessor of Maulana Rumi. I'm
Okay.
just trying to remember his name.
Simnani?
Huh?
Simnani.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Simnani, that's the one, yeah. Simnani is excellent at it too. Maybudi is also good at it. And then Abdul Razak al-Qashani does exactly what you're talking about. If you look at the tafsir of Abdul Razak al-Qashani, that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Okay, perfect.
But by the way, the tafsir of Abdul Razak al-Qashani, it's called Tafsir Ibn Arabi, but it's not Ibn Arabi's tafsir. It's just called that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. جزاك الخير.
Allah barak fiki. Yeah, I can take one more question and then I think we're done, inshallah. No? Okay. Humma, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So the question was about the mirroring and then how, miraculously or the image again actually comes out right. And I think that happens in the human brain as well to some extent, that the optic nerve and the way it casts its reflection is actually upside down. And the brain itself reverses that image so that we see things the way we should be seeing them. So there is a mirroring of the mirroring happening inside the optic, the ball of the eye, and where it's received in the brain.
Good
Does
point.
that-
Thanks.
So that might be one of the and of course Hazrat Ibn Arabi is saying it before these scientific discoveries have been made. So it's a progenitor, or it's a clairvoyance of what Allah actually does in many of ours, and many other creatures see differently.
And hence say kharaka al-ada. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Exactly. Bless
Yeah,
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bless you too. Thank you so much. Okay, Allah barak fikum, everyone. Apologies for lack of clarity on that one paragraph. It's even floored me. There's lots of things about the Shaykh al-Akbar, mashallah. Like, it's very hard to encompass him completely. So I'm gonna go look into that a bit more and then get back to you with that information, inshallah. Hopefully something that's a bit more clear. Thank you all and see you next time. So next week it'll be Sufi Path of Knowledge, inshallah. All right, guys, take care.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Barakallah.
Jazakallah
Thank you.
khair.
Jazakallah
Happy
khair.
birthday.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.